Hey guys, welcome back to episode 26 of the BMW M Coupe project. And today, as you can see over here, the car is pretty much done sanding for the most part. And today I will be laying down the epoxy, but it's gonna rain for the next couple days. So I plan on basically epoxying the car before the rain basically destroys everything that I've worked on. But before I get into today's episode, I do want to thank my friend Oscar, who's the owner of the body shop that I'm currently at called ODA Auto Works. It's a body shop located in Covina, California. So for all your bodywork needs or collision repair needs, they are the guys to go to. And they are also the guys gracious enough to give me a little spot for me to work my car here. With that being said, before I actually get into the whole spraying the epoxy all over the car, I actually need to wipe it down and prepare the panels to make sure they're clean. So let's go ahead and wipe down the car. All right. So to start, I have my paint thinner over here, I have my respirator, and I have my towel. So now I'm gonna spray it on and pretty much wipe down the whole car. Okay, so I finished wiping down the car. Now it's time for me to actually start masking. I have this little tool. I'm in a bit of a rush because I do need to finish this by today. So I'm gonna try to knock this out as fast as I can. So let's get started. All right, so I finished masking everything to the best of my abilities, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like masking was probably one of the most frustrating parts of the entire process. I think this took a lot of patience, and even with a lot of patience, I can't even say that this is like perfectly done either, but I did this to the best of my abilities. I'll update you guys once we actually get to painting. All right, so the epoxy or the primer has been laid on. So this is the foundation of what the paint job is gonna have. It's been a long ass day, dude. We spent the whole entire day. I'm not too sure how much footage I got, but it's gonna rain like the next 1 or 2 days. And well, now that this is done, I can now go home, rest assured that rust is not going to further increase, or there's not gonna be more rust that's gonna put onto the car. So we're gonna let this dry. I'm gonna clap down, it's gonna fast forward to the next day. All right, so it has been a couple of days since I last worked on the car, and that was mainly due to it raining. But I now have my side skirts right behind me over here, and I'm gonna work on that today. I also wanted to note, we just surpassed 800 subscribers on YouTube, and I wanna thank you guys for that. If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, that would help out the channel tremendously. It'd be really funny if you could comment how long you actually think it's gonna take me to finish this car. I'm projecting that it's going to be at the end of February, but you guys can make your own speculations and guesses in the comments below. Before I get into it, I want to note I've been here since like 9:30 and it's currently 11:30. Dude, I spent 2 hours literally prepping. I took off all the plastic thing on the car. I was like, I also look like a mess. It's been quite a morning. It's been quite a long weekend to say the very least, but let's go ahead and get sanding. Getting pretty close. I think if I could finish this by the end of today, I would be a very happy Chinese boy. So let's go ahead and get started again. All right, that was another 5 hours of sanding, and as you guys can see, I am pretty much almost done with the side skirt. I think there's a few final like touch-ups things I need to do, but honestly, I'm gonna call this one a day. So both the side skirts are pretty much done for the most part, and what's next is gonna be my front fenders. My front fenders should be a lot easier because they're flat. These were, oh my, these were such a pain to work with, dude, because they kept moving around, this and that, and it's not completely flat. So working with the side skirts was honestly my least favorite, or the most dreaded, or the most complicated, most difficult, I absolutely hated doing it. But if you look over here, this is what faces the ground, but sometimes it does hit the ground when I bottom out. This is pretty much down to the bare metal. I took off all the Bondo as you saw earlier, and I also got the primer and self-etching primer off on the top. So anyways, I'm gonna clap now, I'm gonna clean up, and I'm gonna fast forward to the next day. All right, so it is now the next day, and the day of recording is December 30th, 2025. And as you can see in front of me, I do have my front fenders. These are one of the two last panels that are metal that need to be sanded down. But also wanted to note, I was reading the comments that you guys left behind, and it seemed that there was actually a coating underneath the side skirt. I wasn't too sure if that was OEM or not because the panel was not completely flat, and it kind of seemed like it was Bondo filled in to kind of fill in the crevices so that the panel actually laid flat, or they were able to sand it to be flat. Given the fact that there was Bondo on my trunk and rear quarter panels that were completely news to me, I wasn't too sure if the coating underneath or whatever I was scraping off was OEM or not. But I do think that there is a huge possibility that I could have been wrong and it's not Bondo. Maybe it is OEM, right? Either way, it's been removed out the car, and I should probably consult to see what is the next move, and I should also do my own research too. But with that being said, thank you guys for those comments. I think it helped me a lot, and it helped me a lot to actually reflect and think about whether I'm doing this correctly or what if I'm removing everything that I should be. Back to where we are, front fenders right here. I am going to basically sand off all of this. It's gonna rain for the next couple of days up until the next year. So with that being said, that probably means this video is going to come out quite a long time from now. So let's go ahead and get sanding. My favorite part. You can't tell me shit now. That's just how it go. I remember you were spraying the car with no mask, and I was like, now you have one. That's good. Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I was like, you have kids, you gotta take care of your health, you know? Your health is very necesito. Yeah. Okay, so I think I got most of it off, just at least the main part over here for the most part, not the top. But if you look over here, I'm gonna put on screen right now, this panel was not originally black. This was actually silver. I bought this on eBay, and this was a replacement part because the original one that I had basically was filled with rust on one part, and I had no idea how to actually fix it, so I just bought a new one. So if I'm reading this correctly, I think over here is the bare metal, then this is the etching primer from factory, then there's the silver paint, and then this is the clear coat. With that being said, I think this panel, for the most part, is pretty much done. I'm gonna clean up some little areas over here, and then we can move on to the next one. Good, how are you? The man model? No, I don't. Okay, that's right. Alright guys, so I'm done sanding this. This is now done over here. This is now done over here. Front, top, done. Time to move on to the next panel. Hey guys, so as you can see, these are the front fenders. This is my passenger side, and this is the driver's side. It should be flipped actually, but as you can see, one is silver, one is black, and you can totally see the mapping of it, the geographic map of this. It's definitely a lot easier to read the black one than the silver one. As you can see, I was having a hard time telling between the difference between like my primer that I put on compared to what is actually factory paint. I did the best that I could, I think, on this panel, but this one's clearly a lot easier. I need to just basically do the top bit. I'm probably just gonna remove the VIN sticker and sand off the rest over here. And I think I should be able to call that a day. So let's go ahead and get started. So the metal panels, the front fenders, as you can see over here, this is done being sanded along with the other one. For the most part, all metal panels are done being sanded. I think I'm gonna wait until it's finished raining and I will spray on the primer. So with that being said, I'm gonna clap now. It's gonna fast forward to the next day. All right, so it is now the next couple of days. So the past like the entire week has been raining and I haven't had the chance to actually work on the car. And in the meantime, I stored all of these panels, like the side skirt and the front fenders in my car because this is bare metal and it was just laid out and it also rained. It didn't rust that bad, but obviously there is little bits over here. I am gonna do like a basic sanded down and inspection on all the panels before I actually lay down the epoxy primer. I'm gonna sand them down and get spraying. All right, so in the meantime, I'm gonna try to figure out if I can disassemble the whole entire mirror assembly. I have never done this before and I honestly have no idea how to do it. So this will be interesting. If I'm gonna do an educated guess, I'm gonna say that I would just pry off this part over here with a tool and that should come off. Hopefully I don't break anything. That's another thing I need to replace. That was not at all what I was supposed to remove. So I couldn't find anything online in regards to how to take it off. So this sacrifice was definitely to basically see how it could be removed. Basically broke my mirror, as you can see on the ground right here. This is the mirror. I don't think I was supposed to remove that. That's something I broke and have to deal with the consequences with later. With that being said, I hope this part is not expensive. Begs the question, how do I remove this? Okay. All right guys, if you are curious on how to take off your mirror, do not do what I just did. And if you do what I did, that is literally how you break it. So I am going to explain to you guys how this is actually mounted on. All right guys, so if you guys want to see how this actually works, this is basically where the mirror used to be. I cracked it off and I literally just broke off my mirror. But anyways, if you look in the back behind, you take this off, you flip it around, you'll see that there are 4 little circles over here. The little tabs over here on this side, these are the things that basically connect to it. Let me remove the other ones so I can see if I can actually explain this correctly or whatever I'm gonna say is gonna be correct or not. Yeah, honestly, I'm glad I broke the other one. I need to replace it anyways. There's a bunch of water spots on it, so I'm gonna try to do this one and hopefully I don't break this one. Damn, dude, I'm so sad. Dang it. This was a really good one. This actually was a good glass. I need to replace both glass now. I guess on the bright side, I have the part numbers now. Yeah, honestly, I have no idea how to remove it without breaking the glass. Shoot. Well, I looked online at FCP Euro and they're $163 each. The best part is that they're back ordered too. So there's no ETA on when that's gonna come in. All right, you know what? That's for future Thomas to worry about. That is future Thomas to do his own research and trying to figure out where he's going to buy it. I'm gonna try to disassemble the assembly over here and see what happens over there. I broke my mirrors, obviously. I broke the glass. Now I'm gonna try to remove the mechanism and try to separate it to get to be able to actually paint them. I have no idea how this works or how this is gonna be connected, so I'm just gonna remove it and explain to you. So you guys are learning how to remove it while I break my stuff. I don't know why there is no videos or no information online in regards to how to actually remove it or what's connecting to it, so hope you guys enjoy. Inside over here, if you look over closely, if you look over here inside, you can see that there are 4 little screws. I believe that's what's holding it in. So I'm gonna remove those screws and I believe it should come off. So I'm just gonna get started. This should just come, oh, okay, it did come off. Now the question is, what do I do now? Okay, so if you look over here, there's little bolts over there, little screws that are super corroded. I'm gonna try to remove those and see if I can get some more room to work with. Okay, so this is done disassembling. I'm gonna give it to them to primer and see from there. So what you just saw was essentially us putting on the epoxy primer onto the front fender and the side skirts and the gas tank cap. Now we have officially applied epoxy primer onto every single metal panel that is on my car. That being said too, I think it was really nice to see Berto use my mask that I got him. It was great to see that he was no longer doing it without a mask, because I can only imagine just spraying without a mask. Me learning from my previous days when I was doing it earlier, way back in the day. Man, it was a different type of high that you would get from the fumes, brother. Yeah, but with that being said, I'm gonna clap now and it's gonna fast forward to the next day. All right, so it is now the next day. The next step is to pretty much block sand the car. And as you can see over here, I have the whole entire hood over here. We sprayed on a guide coat for the time being. I will be using 400 grit on this sanding block. And as you can tell, it is flat. So I'm gonna be doing this all over the hood in a diagonal pattern. After that, that should pretty much show me the areas that are imperfected and see if I need to do anything further. For the most part, this is basically just flattening all the surface too. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I am pretty much done with the middle. There was 3 sections to this. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then there's the side over here, side over there. As I was doing this, Oscar noticed I was doing it incorrectly and corrected me. Same thing for Nando too. Thank you guys for correcting me. The mistake that I was making was that I was doing the whole entire hood earlier, but because there was a bump, they advised me to essentially do it in 3 sections so that I do it in flat surfaces and not worry about too much about going up and down. With that being said, 1/3 of the hood is done. Now I'm gonna move on to the other sides, like over here that you see over here. Obviously, this side over here is not completely flat. Like over here, it is pretty much flat for the most part, aside from the little hump on the middle of the hood. Because it was still relatively flat, I was able to use the flat one. It actually worked out okay. But as you see on this side over here, this is not flat one bit. If I get the flat one, it actually won't cover all the way. Essentially what I need is a rubber one or a more flexible one so that I can actually get all the tire surface in one stroke. So that's where this one comes in. This one is going to be more flexible one so that I can actually cover the whole entire thing going across it. So I'm gonna put a piece of sandpaper on and I'm gonna start working on this side. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now that the hood is pretty much done being block sanded, now it's time to move on to the door, A-pillar, and the rear quarter panels. As you can see, I masked off the area over here and I put on guide coat. In terms of guide coat, you can typically use black paint, or there's actually a special formula that's called guide coat black, or just guide coat in general. Typically you would want to probably use guide coat because guide coat is easily removable if you wash it. If you use like black paint, obviously it's probably not that easy to come off. So I think it's well worth it to actually spend a little bit extra to get guide coat instead of just black paint, me personally. I also typically like to use aerosol instead of the powder. Seems like it's easier to see and doesn't really come off. So with that being said, as you can see over here, there's a bunch of black spots that I basically just sprayed on like so. I probably should have put on a mask doing that. So I just inhaled all the fumes on that one. But yeah, I'm gonna start. All right, so I'm gonna start sanding. All right guys, so sun's in my face. I don't really have a good camera angle, but as you can see, I'm done pretty much block sanding the car. I'm basically doing this to see if there's any dents or stuff like that or dings. With that being said, I am going to basically fill in the areas that have bare metal exposed. I already wiped down the car, so I'm gonna use self-etching primer and I'm just gonna spray over the little spots over here just so all the metal parts are covered. All right guys, so I put on self-etching primer on areas that had exposed metal. I basically just cleaned up and I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna cover the car, so I'm gonna clap now and it's gonna fast forward to the next day. All right, so it is now the next day, and as you notice, there is a pretty big focal difference in how that camera actually looks. I'm using a little fisheye lens because if you look over here, I'm gonna put on a screen right now. This is literally all the space that I have, and I figured maybe a fisheye lens might be better. So with that being said, it's time for me to block sand the other side of the car. This is the passenger side. I have the A-pillar, the rear quarter panel, the door, and
the trunk. I'm hoping that this probably looks better. Let me know what you guys think. If anything, I honestly might be using this lens just more often, to be honest with you. I feel like this kind of gives a better characteristic or better look, but probably up to what you guys think, and I would appreciate any feedback. So if you guys want to leave a comment down below, that'd be super, super helpful. Honestly, I'm kind of digging the look just from me looking at the screen right now. Anyways, I literally got here at like 10 a.m. and I spent like the past like hour and a half just setting things up. I turned the car around. I was just setting up all the stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so step one is guide coat. The whole point of this is to see if there's any dents. I suspect that there's probably gonna be a bunch over here, given the fact that there was Bondo. Also, before I start sanding, I just wanna say this guide coat that I bought, this should be a lot easier to wash off. So honestly, if I get on the windows and stuff like that, like, it doesn't really matter. I'll just come off once I wash it off with water. So get spraying. Probably should have put on a mask to do that. I'm gonna put on a mask now. I also forgot to tape off this side, and I sprayed guide coat all over the inside. Remember, safety is #1 priority, or your health should be your #1 concern. Don't be lazy. Don't be like me. All right, so now that the guide coat is on the panels, now it's time for me to start block sanding the car. I am going to use 400 grits, and since this is flat, I'll be using the flat attachment like the one over here. I'll be using this one. This panel should be extremely straightforward and easy to do, and it should be relatively quick too. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, all right, so now the trunk is done. As you can see, there's a bit of bare metal that was exposed over here. That's just simply because it's not flat. So with that being said, I need to spray on self-etching primer on that. I'm gonna do that at the end of the day. But in the meantime, I am going to start working on the rear quarter panels and the A-pillar of the door. So let's go ahead and get started on those. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, this lens is actually pretty sick. I literally have like probably 4 foot-ish of room, and I'm literally right in front of the camera. You can still see me. I'm super far away. Anyways, with that being said, the rear quarter panel and half of the A-pillar is done, and along with the trunk is done. Now it's time to move on to the door and the rest of the A-pillar. Not gonna lie, I think I'm gonna use this lens a little bit more. I think kind of gives it a nice little different personality. So, that being said, the door, A-pillar, and trunk and the rear quarter panel are now done being block sanded. Obviously, there are some parts that are not near me at the moment, but there are some parts that have gone to metal. So with that being said, I'm gonna wipe down the car with water, and afterwards I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna mask things off and spray on self-etching primer on top of the bare metal so that it doesn't rust. So let's go ahead and get started. Masking is probably one of the most important parts of this, and as you can see, there's metal right here, and there's metal right here, here. So let's go ahead and start masking. All right guys, so I just finished putting on all the self-etching primer. As you can see over here, I masked everything off, and then added the self-etching primer on where it was raw metal. But I'm done doing the first round of the block sand, and I need to do another round of primer and block sand that too. So I think I'm gonna continue that on the next episode. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.